So today we're going to be doing some festive baking. Now I'm going to share two recipes with you. One I did do last Christmas. It was my gingerbread ginger house recipe, so I'm just going to go over that quickly. I'm actually halving the proportions this year, obviously because it makes a lot. I think it makes about 40 biscuits in total, or it can make up to 40 biscuits if you just do like little rounds. So obviously don't need quite that much. Not when we're going to be doing cupcakes as well. So the second recipe is from a website called Baking Mad, and it is the gingerbread cinnamon cupcakes. Now I'm only going to be using the cupcake recipe part of this recipe. That's the only bit that I'm going to be using, and then I'm just going to do a vanilla buttercream. So I think you can go a bit too much gingerbread. Never had too much gingerbread at Christmas, but all in one place can be a little bit too much. So I have got my stand mixer out. You don't have to do this by hand. I just find it a little easier because I have nails on, and you do have to rub the butter in, and no one wants to do that with nails. So I've got my recipe card. This is one of my favourite recipes. So I've weighed everything out. This is the original recipe, so this is the full recipe. I just halved this. So this is the full recipe if you wanted to just make a load of gingerbread. So to start, we're actually going to preheat the oven, so we need it on 160. Mine is a fan, so we're going to set that up. I've got my baking tray with my baking paper. Please use baking paper. It will make your life so much easier. I've got my cookie cutters ready, so I'm going to go Christmas tree and traditional Christmas man. Christmas man? Gingerbread man. And then I'm using this, which is, I think it's a pastry, well I use it for pastry, it's a pastry flute. But I'm using the round end, and you will see why later on. But they're the three shapes that I'm making. You could make all sorts. I've got so many. I used loads. I used different ones last year, so I thought I'd use these ones this year. Now we're all switched on. All hands are washed. Everything is already pre-weighed out. I just thought it'd be easier that way. You're not watching me do the boring bits of weighing it all out. So to start with, we're going to mix all dry ingredients. So we've got 200 grams of plain flour. These little bowls were just from the range. We've got, let me get this right, we've got half a teaspoon of baking powder, half a teaspoon of cinnamon, and a teaspoon of ground ginger, all in here. And I've also put in a quarter of a teaspoon of salt because I'm using dairy-free butter and it's unsalted, so I've just put a little bit of salt into here because it does normally call for salted butter. And then to finish, this recipe uses granulated sugar, not caster, I had something on the bottom, granulated sugar, not caster sugar. It's just a bit more coarse, a bit more gritty, and there is 50 grams of this, so I'm just going to put that in, just lower down and just give that a quick whiz, just to combine it a little bit. Now we need to add the butter. The one thing I will say, all of these ingredients, everything has been out on my side. If you could see that side behind the camera, everything has been out of the fridge, the cupboards, on the side for at least an hour to bring it up to room temperature, so it's all the same temperature. It just makes it easier when blending it. And if your butter's soft, it just takes out half the work. So we have 62.5 grams of butter. I need a spoon. I don't know what I did with my spoon. We'll go spatula, it was the closest to me. So I'm just gonna push this in, and as I said, normally you would rub this through like you would be creating a breadcrumb or a crumble mix, but with long nails it's not the nicest experience. So I'm going to lower this and we're going to mix for about 2 minutes to make sure all of the butter is incorporated. If you think it needs a bit longer, just give it a bit longer. So we're now well combined. You can see like the butter's created like a crummy texture. Now we need to add some more wet ingredients. So because the normal recipe asks for 1 egg, I've weighed out my egg in a festive Christmas mug. I do just need to grab the scales. It weighed 60 grams, so I need to add in 30 grams of egg. I've just whisked it together so all the egg and the white and the yolk are combined. I'm going to take my spatula again just to help me, and I'm just going to weigh as I go just to see just a tiny bit more. There we go. And this, same, it makes scrambled eggs. And then the hardest one to add in, actually this, like I said, it's easier because it's all been out for about an hour, golden syrup. So we want 62.5 grams of golden syrup, nice and sticky. And we're gonna then put the mixer back on and make sure everything combines and mixes really well. So if you have to leave it for 3 or 4 minutes to mix, then do that until it starts to form a good biscuit dough. So all combined, I have just used the spatula to push everything down the sides just to make sure it mixes well. I stopped it about halfway through. I've lightly, and I mean lightly, floured a work surface and my rolling pin. You don't want to add too much flour because you will change the consistency of your biscuit dough. So if I show you, you can see it's looking like a nice, if I picked that up, we can get it to stick together. Now when I do the full recipe, should I say, I do this in batches so that you don't get too many cracks or it doesn't dry out on you. But because we've had the recipe today, we are going to bring it all onto the work surface, just lightly flour your hands, and we're just going to bring this together just so we've got a nice solid dough to roll out. And as I said, you do not want to use too much flour. You may be tempted to, but you will get, you will change the consistency. And you want to roll it out to about 1/2 centimetre. Now, the more times I've found that you roll this dough, the more creases you get, the less it likes to combine. So if you can roll it all out and get your shapes all in the first roll, they're going to be the better ones. Obviously you can re-roll, but it's just easier to get it on all on the first one. So we're going to go with the gingerbread. I'm just going to very lightly flour, and I'm going to take it to the edge and press him in. So we've got 5 of each shape, and then I'm going to take this, just lightly put some flour, and I'm going to just stamp, because these are going to be the decoration for the top of our cupcakes. We're going to do buttercream, and then just stand some of these in the top. So see if we can get 12 out of it, because the recipe makes 12 cupcakes. Take these and put them on the tray, and then I'm going to re-roll. So just be careful. If you've rolled it, they should, if you've floured enough, it should just come out like that. Now they don't expand too much, but just give them a little space on the tray. If you need to use a second tray, use a second tray. Oh no, one of them's got a little broken arm. That's okay, we can fix you. Okay, so we have 3 trays. We have a large tray and then 2 smaller size, and I'm actually using the offcuts, and I'm going to bake them because I want to make a gingerbread crumb. But as you can see, we've made a little mess. So we're going to get these in the oven. I'm probably going to have to cook them in batches, which is what I normally would do. They cook they bake for 15 minutes, leave them to cool a little bit on the rack, and then put them onto a cooling tray to fully cool, or eat them while they're warm, because gingerbread's amazing warm. Okay, so we're going to move on to the cupcake bit now. The gingerbread is out of the oven, cooling on the rack. I have, well, oven is already preheated because it is 160 that we need to be at. So same temperature as your gingerbread. We've got cupcakes, or cupcake cases. Everything is weighed out and ready to go. I'm going to do this with a hand whisk, but we need some soft butter. And we're going to cream our butter and sugar together. I will leave the recipe down in the description. So, next we are going to gradually add the eggs, and as we add the eggs, add the flour so that it doesn't like curdle or anything like that. But we're going to add our spices, which is cinnamon, ginger and a bit of nutmeg. A little bit of nutmeg. We don't want too much. So we've got 3 eggs here. I'm just going to add a little bit, mix this together, and then add a bit of flour. Okay, now we've got everything in, I'm going to go with my spatula and push everything down, make sure we're all combined, nothing's missing, we don't want any lumps of flour. And I'm going to pop these off and scrape them. Not the easiest thing to scrape, I must admit, but sometimes a teaspoon is good, it gets in like all of the little bits. And we're gonna scrape it all, don't want to waste any. And then it does just say to add about a tablespoon of milk, just splash it in there, or splash it everywhere. And just mix all that together. It just makes the batter a bit looser. That looks so good. It smells amazing. And then I'm going to divide this by 12 cupcake cases we've got here in the oven for about 15 to 20 minutes. This should be nice and springy on top, and if you poke a skewer in, it should come out nice and clean. Okay, timer's just gone off. They are nice and springy to the touch. Got a bamboo skewer here, nice and clean. You don't want anything on there at all. It may look a bit damp, that's just the steam from obviously the cupcakes. I'm going to leave them to cool a little bit and transfer them to the rack, and you want them to be cold. Don't be tempted if they're just a little bit warm, fully cold, otherwise your buttercream will just everywhere. Experience. Okay, cakes are fully cold. I've left them for about an hour and a half. Stand mixer is back out because butter icing, it needs a bit of elbow grease, and I like to either use my stand mixer or a handheld mixer just to save my hands, just to make it a bit easier on myself. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to add in my butter. Now the recipe I'm using is the Mary Berry Vanilla Buttercream, but I'm not using butter, I'm using Flora, so I may not need the milk, so I'm not adding it now, but if you was to use milk, you would add some of the milk now. So I'm going to put this in here and beat it until it is nice and light, like almost white, like pale yellow, like a lot paler than this. And then we're going to add in our icing sugar. Yes, that's a lot of icing sugar. One thing I will say, make sure you've got your ingredients, because I just went to the cupboard thinking I had 2 boxes of icing sugar. No, one's royal icing, which has egg white in it to help. I bought it obviously last year when I was doing my gingerbread. So just check your ingredients first, because I just had a bit of a panic. But, so I'm going to add this. I'm going to need a spoon or something. Let's get the spatula back out. I'm going to add this in here. 175 grams of this. And this will do all 12 cupcakes. If you want less buttercream, you don't have to do quite as much as this. But we are in. And now I'm going to put this on medium setting to give it a good mix up. Okay, so we're all mixed up. Just use the spatula to push like as much of it down as possible, just so that it all stays under the paddle. And now I'm going to add in half of the icing sugar. This is where we get a nice cloud. Okay, we're going to mix this together, and then we're going to add the vanilla and the other half of the icing sugar. Okay, so I've got my whipped buttercream. I've got my piping bag in my pint glass. Make sure you cut your hole and put your nozzle in first. You've got the cakes. I'll do one, and then I'll do all the rest off camera, so we're not here all day. So you want to, oh god, you like to use a spatula when doing, when getting everything out, because then you don't waste any. Okay, and then you want to push it, gather at the top and push it down and twist. So then you're not going to get any coming out of the top. Now I've got a star head nozzle on, so we should get nice ribbons. Let's go for this one. top. And then what I'm going to do with the offcuts that I baked from the gingerbread, I'm just going to sprinkle them over the top at the end, and we've got a gingerbread. And to add a bit of colour, you could do crushed candy cane, which I have got, I may do. We'll see. Okay, all done. I did just stick them in the fridge for about 15 minutes just to firm up. It's warm in my kitchen today. I've had the heating on and the oven on for a good period of the day. Now, I've crumbled up some of the leftover gingerbread, and I froze two, oh, we've got holes in the bag. I froze 2 candy canes and smashed them as well. Watch your fingers under the rolling pin, did trap me some. Now, this is where it gets messy. You can, if you're sensible, put a tray underneath and it's easy to clean, but I'm just going to clean the kitchen anyway in a minute. So, just sprinkle some of the crumbs, as much or as little as you want. And like I said, gets messy. That's that. And then we go in with the candy canes to add a bit of colour. This bag smells amazing. You can actually whip the candy cane into your icing, it will give it like a pinky tone. Oh. And alternatively to the biscuit, you could put some mini candy canes in. And there we go. Let's wash my hands and I'll show you close up. So there we go. Finished. You can add as much colour you want as you want. You could have added colour into the icing just to break up that colour a little more. But I hope you enjoyed this video. I'm now going to eat one of these because these look amazing. Hope you all enjoy, and I'll see you next time. Bye.